I do all of my game development from home, as I'm sure many people do, at least when they're starting out. This is because, for one, I'm 17, so I couldn't legally move out if I wanted to, and two, I don't have any money anyway, so yeah, whatever. The point is that I've spent enough time trying to be productive in a fairly chaotic and uncontrolled environment to hopefully offer some helpful tips to anyone in the same or similar situation. First of all, I think it's quite important to avoid thought-based traps. Things like, yeah, I'll work on my game when it's peaceful, or worse still, I'll work on this game when these damned kids have grown up. For context, yeah, I'm the oldest of a lot of younger siblings. Both of these sentences are shifting responsibility away from your present self, which is unfortunately the most important version of yourself to motivate. If your situation is anything like mine, it really isn't feasible to work on your game late at night. In my experience, working late at night is generally less productive and of a poorer quality than getting something done in the morning or midday. After a full day of keeping up with household demands as well as school or work, I find that getting something done is a much more grueling task. I have two solutions to this. The first of such solutions is to push such thoughts out of my head entirely, or to realise there's not actually going to be any easier to work on my game in the evening because then I'll be tired. It ultimately balances out and I just have to get the work done now. The second solution, which may not be possible depending on who you are or what you have to do, is to go to sleep at 9 PM almost every night and wake up by 5:30. This nets me about 8 hours of sleep while still having a few hours in the morning to wake up and get into working on my game with minimal distractions. I could probably fill an entire YouTube video with tips on how to get to sleep so early in a noisy household, but I'll keep it simple here since my YouTube channel is actually still about game development. Earplugs are your friend, as are noise generators, as is making peace with the fact that people might wake you up while they probably don't mean to. Be cool, calm, and let your mind wander a bit. Drink lots of non-caffeinated fluids. Last but not least, ease into a significantly earlier... There's a car outside. I'm leaving that in the recording. Last but not least, ease into a significantly earlier sleep schedule by going to sleep at say 10 PM and waking up at 6:30 AM for a few nights, and then you can get into sleeping at 9 and waking up at 5:30. Of course, your times may vary. Another general tip for game development from home is to avoid the tendency to go make a drink to buy time so you don't have to work for a few minutes longer. I'm quite guilty of this, and as a result I drink like 7 cups of tea a day. To avoid this, it helps to open up your game, poke around, and see what you need to get done before getting up. In my experience, once I get up, my mind has left the game dev zone and is now thinking about whatever miscellaneous rubbish wanders into my head instead. The idea is that if you make a mental note of what you're about to do when you get back, you'll put your beverage of choice on your desk and be easily able to get straight back into work without being inclined to spend another moment to finish your tea while you figure out what to do. Plus, it can provide an extra incentive to the thinking bit, since your ability to go get a nice cup of hot something depends on your ability to figure out your next task. And though I don't do this, some people set themselves rigid hours between which they will or won't work on their game. For instance, between 8 and 4 PM, I'll close everything else on my computer and only allow myself to work on my game. You can experience for whatever works for you in particular, such as a 5-minute break every hour, a 15-minute break every 2 hours, an hour as a lunch break. The point is that it can be helpful to not have a super liquid schedule. I would give myself a more rigid schedule, but that's difficult, mostly due to school, and, well, that just sort of ruins everything. Lastly, don't overwork yourself. Now, this isn't to say be lazy and slack off, because obviously that's not going to help anyone, but make sure to recognise from as reasonable and I guess objective a view as possible whether you need a break or not. The unfortunate truth is that the universe will not be kind to you if you take too much time off. I hate to be the tough love guy, but indie game development is really very hard, and you need to recognise that your job is to make the best game you can in order to have a chance at staying afloat in the industry, let alone getting anywhere actually successful. If you overwork yourself, I believe that you will almost always make a worse product. In order to make a good product and to be at maximum efficiency, creativity, productivity, you need to have some breaks. Be reasonable and allocate time to take a step back and have a potentially brutally honest look at what you're doing, where you're going, and what you're going to do about it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos that are very long and also very tangentially related to game development, but applicable to most fields of creative work where the creator is sufficiently independent. It's a bit like a cheat for YouTube, isn't it? Brand as a game dev channel and go off and make this random nonsense. And all the while, you people are so fooled, you haven't even unsubscribed yet. That is, unless you haven't subscribed, at which point you should. This is a game dev channel. Goodbye.